And we had activists fighting for equality, not wanting to hide their private lives, people that have been together for 10, 20 years and that were asking for recognition and asking for equality. Of course, I remember my wedding, which was very beautiful, but I also remember that because it's a formalization of equal rights. So that's also how we explain it to our kids, a world where we have different families. So empathy, patience, and understanding, that's what I would propose.
สวัสดีค่ะเดือนมิถุนายนเป็นเดือน Pride Month ก็คือเดือนแห่งความภาคภูมิใจของกลุ่มคนหลากหลายทางเพศ Global Focus พูดคุยกับคุณแรมโก้ฟันไวคาเดนท่านเอกอัครราชทูตเนเธอร์แลนด์ประจำประเทศไทยท่านทูตแต่งงานกับคู่ชีวิตมา10กว่าปีแล้วนะคะมีลูก3คนดิฉันถามท่านทูตค่ะเกี่ยวกับการต่อสู้เรียกร้องกฎหมายสมรสเท่าเทียมในเนเธอร์แลนด์รวมถึงการย้ายมาทำงานที่ประเทศไทยย้ายกันมาทั้งครอบครัวนะคะเมืองไทยเปิดกว้างเหมือนเนเธอร์แลนด์หรือเปล่าและท่านทูตสอนลูกๆยังไงในครอบครัวที่มีคุณพ่อ2คนค่ะเนเธอร์แลนด์เป็นชาติที่บุกเบิกกฎหมายสมรสเท่าเทียมค่ะเพราะเป็นประเทศแรกในโลกที่ประกาศใช้กฎหมายนี้อย่างเป็นทางการตั้งแต่ปี 2001 หรือกว่า 20 ปีมาแล้วสะท้อนให้เห็นถึงสังคมที่มีความเสรีและเปิดกว้างโอบรับความหลากหลายทางเพศ The Netherlands is well known for being an open liberal society.Has that always been the mentality of Dutch people, or is it through some learning that got Netherlands where it is today?
I think the Netherlands has always been an open-minded country over centuries. There's lots of reasons for that, but the main reason is that the Netherlands has always been a smaller country and always depending on other countries for trade, for the economic growth. So we've always been an open country and welcoming also other nationalities, other groupings. We knew how to make ships, so we were traveling the world already in the 17th century and before that. So we've always been open out of pragmatism and out of necessity. And that also has impacted our culture. I think that people were used to meet other cultures, other nationalities. So it goes all the way back that we are an open, liberal and progressive society.
Mm-hmm. But still, in terms of LGBTQ plus community, yes. Maybe that's quite a new concept. How does the Dutch society adapt that into its society, into the way of thinking?
I don't believe it's a new concept. I think LGBT people have been there forever. I think it's something that affects 5 to 10Some people say 20% of the world population, whether it's not a choice, it's been there. So I think the new part of it is that in the past decades, the Netherlands has also pushed forward the equality agenda from a legal perspective. I think in society, it started already before that in the Netherlands, so in the 60s, in the 50s, 60s. LGBT people also spoke out. Everybody knows the developments in New York in the 70s. And we had activists fighting for equality, not wanting to hide their private lives, people that have been together for 10, 20 years and that were asking for recognition and asking for equality, going to court, having informal marriages in churches that wanted to cooperate. So the discussion started in the 60s, 70s already in the Netherlands.
Is there any discrimination or homophobia in the Netherlands?
Yes, there is, regrettably. I think worldwide there is discrimination of minorities and not only of LGBT people. But the Netherlands monitors that, so we have a yearly report also about discrimination, gender discrimination, minority, LGBT people. And unfortunately, LGBT people in the Netherlands are also facing discrimination in society mostly. So the equality is there really from a legal perspective and also government policies. Everything is, I would say, close to perfectly equal. But in society, I think most people that are part of a minority know that it's always a challenge, even though acceptance can be high, can be up to 80% or 90%. There's always some groups that are opposed or not used or resisting equality for LGBT people. So also in the Netherlands, some LGBT people do face discrimination, indeed.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever face such a situation before, Ambassador?
I have not faced discrimination. I think almost all LGBT people have faced somehow some labeling in society. So for instance, when I walk on the streets in anywhere in the world, actually, you're always conscious that some people, if you, for instance, you hold hands with your spouse, you're always conscious of the fact that some people might not like what they see. They stare, and some people comment. It so has happened to us. So happened to us also in the Netherlands. That, but in general, I've been married to my spouse now for I have to know that, for almost 15 years, and it has rarely happened. I think acceptance in the Netherlands, especially for marriage, is extremely high, especially for the younger generation. So the millennials, the Generation Z, means those who were born in the 80s and 90s, they have an acceptance of diversity and marriage equality that reaches 80-90%. So that's the acceptance is very high. It's not an issue.
I can see you far and wide across the ocean, above the clouds. In your presence, I am free.
แน่นอนว่าเส้นทางการต่อสู้เพื่อให้ได้มาซึ่งกฎหมายสมรสเท่าเทียมย่อมไม่ได้โรยด้วยกลีบกุหลาบเพราะทุกๆเรื่องในโลกย่อมมีทั้งคนที่เห็นด้วยและไม่เห็นด้วยชุมชน LGBTQ+ ในเนเธอร์แลนด์ฝ่าฟันอุปสรรคเหล่านี้มาได้อย่างไร Has it been a long fight for equal marriage in the Netherlands?
Yes. It has been a long fight. Going back, it started in the 60s, and marriage equality was legalized on the 1st of April 2001. At first, it was a fight for some individuals that were personally involved, some activists. There was some media attention around it, but it was suppressed. And then slowly, the movement got bigger. So lawyers got involved, civil society got involved. In the 70s, there was a political party that started that was purely focusing on LGBT rights. So the movement took a long time, but took the logical steps, society acceptance, then lobbying, activism, legal battles, and then slowly it gained ground in Parliament. In the 90s, finally, the Minister of Justice decided to start the procedures for legalizing marriage equality. And then there was a huge majority in Parliament, like in Thailand. In the Netherlands, we have a chamber with 150 parliamentarians, and the majority was over 2/3 to legalize marriage equality. So it was a long battle. If you look at the time frame, it was from the 60s to 2001.
What were the major arguments for the proponents and major arguments for the opponents at that time?
Well, the main argument for the proponents is that equality is ingrained in our Constitution. So it's a very simple argument. If there is no marriage equality, there's not the same rights for people that have a relationship with people from the same gender, or a relationship that's not recognized by the state. LGBT partners before marriage equality or partnerships, legalized partnerships, would not be covered by insurance, would not have the same benefits with pensions. For instance, if their partner would die, normally in Dutch law, the pension goes to the spouse. So if you cannot marry your partner, then you would not have the same benefits. It's insurance, it's healthcare. For instance, if your partner needs an operation in hospital, if the government does not recognize your LGBT partner, who do you call for instance, for an authorization for an operation? So it's all sorts of issues that needed to be addressed. And so on the one hand, there's the thought and the wish to some LGBT people to get married because it feels like a recognition of your partnership, but it's also implies a lot of other legal benefits when you get married. When I got married 15 years ago, a week after I got married, we got a letter from my pension company and said, congratulations with your marriage. And from now on, your partner is also entitled to your pension rights. So it was automatic. And of course, I remember my wedding, which was very beautiful, but I also remember that because it's a formalization of equal rights.
What about the opponents at that time?
The opponents is, generally speaking, you can categorize opponents in a few categories. Sometimes it comes from religion. Most religions are proponents of traditional partnerships, focusing on a man and a woman and children together. So most religions recognize men-women partnerships only. So also in the Netherlands, the parliamentarians that voted against marriage equality were mostly the religious parties. Other opponents also in the Netherlands, sometimes people who would label themselves as being conservatives, not by definition associated to a church, but that traditional values and traditional families. So those are normally in most countries the opponents, and also in the Netherlands.
So now that the rights are the same, you said that the issue has moved on to transgender right. What is that about, Ambassador? Because I would think that marriage equality is like, the ultimate goal.
Well, the ultimate goal for the past decades was marriage equality and equality, and I think in that respect a lot was achieved. And we're still facing some issues related to acceptance in society sometimes. So for LGBT couples, there's still that issue in society sometimes. What we notice worldwide, we see a few countries progressing on marriage equality. I think there's been 6 or 7 more countries since 2017 that have legalized marriage equality. So there's progress on the one hand. And on the other hand, everybody also knows that there is pushback on equal rights worldwide. So there have been countries that have drafted laws that actively discriminate LGBT people. And one of the most visible communities in the LGBT community are the transgender people. I think in most countries worldwide, the transgender people are facing most challenges in society to get accepted. And that's also the case in the Netherlands. And there's also a discussion driven out of conservatism, out of religious aspects, where people are allowed to change their gender and what impact it has on other people in society. So that's the discussion that currently takes place, not only in the Netherlands, but also in the US and other countries. So I think that's the next big challenge, is to create an environment where transgender people do not feel discriminated.
ในฐานะที่ท่านทูตแรมโกอาศัยอยู่ในประเทศไทยร่วมกับคู่ชีวิตท่านทูตมองว่าคนไทยเปิดกว้างและยอมรับความหลากหลายทางเพศมากน้อยขนาดไหนในสายตาของท่าน Now you've been living in Thailand with your spouse as well, as a family as well in Thailand. How do you feel living in Thailand?
I love it. It's actually extremely welcoming. And we know Thailand is working on the legal aspect of marriage equality. And we're very happy to see that the Thai parliament has passed a law. And I think all the LGBT community worldwide in Thailand, we are looking anxiously at the next step in Thailand. So we're very happy with that. The other reason that we are happy living and working as an LGBT couple in Thailand is that it's extremely welcoming. Even though it's not recognized legally, the minute we enter Thailand as a family, there is full recognition and full acceptance of our family, also at the official level. So we are always invited as a couple. So my spouse and we as a couple feel very welcome and validated here. And the same goes for our children. What I also really appreciated when our children went to school, first year we had 2 different schools, and in the first school our twins went to, we were the first LGBT parents. And what I really appreciated is that the school invited us and asked us, so you are our first LGBT couple, so how do we address this? How do we talk about it? Do you want us to explain to other kids? It was very open and very constructive and very good for our children. So far, we've loved it.
Compared to the Netherlands, Thai society, how open are we?
I'm an economist, and so I would not dare say very academic things about Thai society, but the impression is especially in Bangkok and in cities all over Thailand, that society is very welcoming to LGBT people. I know LGBT people in Thailand also face challenges, and it's not all smooth sailing, but in general, and it also shows by the number of LGBT tourists that come here. Also, when we talk to other LGBT people here, that Thailand is very respectful and welcoming and accepting of LGBT people. And we feel very much at home here.
How do you actually teach your children? Maybe they look at their friends and then their friends have mom and dad, but then this is not us at home. How do you actually teach your children?
It's interesting because there's lots of books and studies about kids and LGBT parents. And let me first say that overall, kids of LGBT parents are open-minded and resilient kids because they grow up in an environment that's a little bit different from other kids. The other thing that I found very interesting is that many kids' books and, about modern families. So we have many of those books, and our friends gave us those books. But when we read a book about modern families, our kids think it's boring because they know. The fact that 3 kids have 2 dads, for them it's the normal situation. They also believe that having a mom and a father is normal. So for them, it's not something that we need to explain.
How old are they?
Our twins are 5-year-olds, so still very young, and our oldest is 7. So it's the age where kids start asking questions. Why? Yes. The 5-year-old's favorite word is why. Why? Yes. And so they ask questions about how they were born. So they ask technical questions, factual questions, and we have a very simple philosophy is to tell them the truth. So we are not making up stories. So we're trying to assess how ready they are. And so we talk a lot with them, and we're not pushing anything through. So it's always feeling a little bit when they are interested in it. And sometimes they are interested in food. Sometimes they're interested in toys. And sometimes they're interested in friends. And sometimes they're interested in talks about modern families.
What about the parents of other kids at your school? What's their reaction? No, but we do get questions. Well, reaction not, but once people have seen us a few times and realize that we are open in answering questions, then people sometimes would come to us and ask questions. So how do you do it? And who's doing the laundry at your house? So who's doing the laundry?
And who's cooking? And so they will ask questions that most LGBT people couples will sometimes get. If people get to know us a little bit better, the questions will be a little bit more deeper, not about the laundry, but about if kids ask about why they don't have a mother. So we explain about modern families. My spouse, for instance, didn't have a father when he grew up. He only had a mother. So that's also how we explain it to our kids, a world where we have different families. Not all kids have a mom and a dad. Some kids have 2 moms, some kids have 1 dad, or 1 mom, or 2 dads. So we explain. And we also explain about motherhood, biological mothers, when they are ready for it.
กลุ่มคนหลากหลายทางเพศกับการเกณฑ์ทหารเป็นอีกหนึ่งในประเด็นที่สังคมโลกถกเถียงกันอยู่เสมอเพราะมักมีข่าวออกมาเรื่อยๆนะคะว่าชาว LGBTQ+ มักโดนกลั่นแกล้งและเลือกปฏิบัติบ่อยครั้งที่เกิดความรุนแรงถึงขั้นถูกทำร้ายร่างกายบังคับให้มีเพศสัมพันธ์ถูกเหยียดหยามต่างๆนานาและประเทศที่ได้ชื่อว่าสังคมเปิดกว้างอย่างเนเธอร์แลนด์ชาว LGBTQ+ ในกองทัพมีชีวิตอย่างไรLet's go back to the Netherlands a bit. Can the LGBTQ+ community serve in the army? What's the rule in the Netherlands?
Yes, they can. And there's absolutely no impediments for LGBT people to serve anywhere within government institutions or government organizations, ministries. It would be against the law to discriminate against LGBT people. And recently, even our constitution was amended. In the past, Article 1 of our Constitution forbid discrimination and was referring to gender discrimination, racial discrimination, religious discrimination. But Article 1 has been amended and includes now sexuality. So it's against our Constitution to discriminate against LGBT people. So yes, we have LGBT ministers in our cabinet, openly married. Our government is not discriminating, and in addition to that, our government also has a strong policy to protect LGBT rights. Once LGBT rights are there, you also have to enforce it and educate people about it. In the Netherlands, in our police force, we call it pink and blue. So we have groups in the police that have expertise about LGBT discrimination and LGBT rights. So when LGBT people are discriminated, they have dedicated officers, mostly in the big cities, not everywhere. My government has included LGBT rights in school curriculum. So kids learn about LGBT issues on television. There's lots of public discussions about it. There's a lot the government is also doing to protect the LGBT rights that are ingrained in our laws.
So in the military, there's no problem at all in integrating LGBTQ people in there?
No problem. And there's been research about it. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to implement in very conservative organizations like Army. There's also been a discussion in the Netherlands about, and worldwide, how come there is no openly LGBT people in football? I think there's one or two worldwide football players that are openly gay. But that's not a matter of law, that's a matter of culture, maybe. And I think that also applies to the military, that it's possible that in certain areas of the military, the culture is maybe what we say a little alpha. So it's also been a challenge for women to get accepted and integrated sometimes in the army. But discrimination is not allowed. And LGBT people are welcome in the army indeed. But obviously, there are some challenges that they have to address.
Ambassador, you touch about sports, you talk about football. So that makes me think, I think there's a big debate going on right now about allowing trans people into sports competition in the female category.
Yes.
You know, there are proponents, there are opponents. What's your opinion about that? Some people say it's not fair.
Yes. It's a difficult discussion. I know quite a few transgender people, and some are good friends of mine also Thai transgender people. I think most of all transgender people identify as transgender, but also identify as man or women. So they're trans women. If a transgender woman or transgender man is not allowed to participate in the sports for woman or man, respectively, intrinsically feel discriminated, which I fully understand. That's on the one hand. And on the other hand, there's also a very strong discussion about, especially transgender women, sometimes have bodies that are stronger on average than physically stronger. So the discussion about competitive advantage in sports. So I would rather focus that discussion on that aspect. And I think most sports unions have tried to define when a transgender woman has or does not have a competitive advantage over biological women. I think the discussion should focus on that. We should solve that discussion and then focus again on equality for transgender people. It's a minor issue. There's not many transgender people that are competing in international sports, but I think that polarization of the discussion affects all transgender people. So I think we should solve that issue and then focus on equality for transgender people in society, at the workplace. I think those are also very important issues.
These days, when we go to some meetings, you'll see how people would want other people to address themselves. Like, I would say, I'm a she, her, right? And then sometimes some people would say, I'm a she, they, or something like that. Some people say, this is getting more and more complicated. What do you think?
Yes. It's getting more complicated. I think even people that really support this sometimes make mistakes. My personal opinion is that as people wherever in the world, one should always talk to other people with empathy. When we got to know each other, you asked me how I wanted to be addressed, and I asked you how you would like to be addressed. And maybe next time I'll meet you, I forgot, or you forgot how to address me, and then you ask again. So I think it's a matter of empathy, respect from both sides. I think it's sometimes complicated, but at the same time, for 99% of the world population, it's not. And most people have a very clear very simple gender definition and gender perception. So for most people, I think we all would like to spend our energy on making sure that we address our good friends in the way they want to be addressed. So empathy, patience, and understanding. That's what I would propose.
Mm-hmm. Ambassador, what will be your message for Pride Month?
Oh, Pride Month. Well, first, I'm very happy with what Thailand is doing on marriage equality. That makes us all very happy in the LGBT community, makes me very happy. So congratulations on the result that we are awaiting, but very sure that it will happen. So that's one thing, a congratulatory message. And the other message is that worldwide, even in countries like the Netherlands, LGBT rights, like all equal rights, are rights that we constantly have to protect and constantly need attention and need to discuss. Marriage equality would be one step, and at the same time, I think all of us, we need to protect our friends, strengthen our friends, and be allies to the LGBT community and understand each other.
Thank you very much. ขอบคุณค่ะ Ambassador.
Thank you.
Thank you. ในแง่สังคมประเทศไทยเป็นที่รู้จักอยู่แล้วนะคะว่าเปิดกว้างต่อความหลากหลายทางเพศส่วนในแง่กฎหมายก็หวังค่ะว่ากฎหมายสมรสเท่าเทียมจะมีการบังคับใช้ในเร็ววันนี้เพื่อที่ว่าประเทศไทยจะเป็นอีกหนึ่งประเทศที่ทุกคนไม่ว่าจะเพศอะไรก็แล้วแต่จะได้รับการคุ้มครองตามกฎหมายอย่างเท่าเทียมกันว่าด้วยการแต่งงานค่ะสวัสดีค่ะ